So first of all, a disclaimer on the psalm. Jesus did not look like that. It's a really white Jesus, kind of a 60s hippie Jesus, I don't know. Didn't look like that. I just had to make sure that everybody knew that wasn't our picture. This is a situation. Have you ever been in a situation where you feel like at a total loss? Like nothing you do or nothing you say or nothing you can do? Have you ever been in that situation like total helplessness? I know that I've often found myself in that situation, especially, I think, in our world today. I have no idea how many there are. Hold on, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 27? Okay, we'll be close. Okay. Having been in that situation where you really feel helpless, it can really get at your soul, right? But the one thing I have come to realize is that if nothing else, it's nice to know that others are in that same situation, or that others have those same feelings, and even all the way back to the time of sacred scriptures writing, right? Because the steward in the gospel today was exactly in that situation. It was like, dang, okay, I'm going to lose my job. I'm pretty desperate. But I do think that unfortunately, there's a commentary that has been given to the scripture because it's titled The Dishonest Steward. I think he got the short end of the stick. I don't think he was the dishonest steward as much as he was the desperately creative steward, right? Desperately creative. Because if you think back to that situation that you and I when I invited right at the very beginning, that situation of hopelessness that you've experienced, you're here today, and let me say thank you for that, but it's obvious you found a way through that hopelessness. And that's exactly what the steward did in today's gospel. He's presented with a situation like he's going to get fired, and he's like, what can I do what can I possibly do to get out of this situation? And he figured a way out of it, just like we've figured a way out of it. So let's set the record straight, if you will, just so this poor dude doesn't get the bad rap that he's gotten, okay? So in the ancient Mediterranean world, there were classes of people. It was a really caste system, right? In the ancient Mediterranean world, you had landowners, people who owned this particular piece of property, right? Or numbers of properties. And then what a landowner would do is hire a steward. A steward is like a property manager in today's realm. And in today's realm, they have a contract about what they do and how they collect money, right, from renters, etc. So did they back then. So you had the landowner here and the steward here. The steward said, fine, I'll manage your properties and all of your renters and all of that, and I'll do it for 10%, right? Well, so obviously what had happened is he was eking out maybe 50% from some people, right? The first dude. And the second one, he was getting 20%. Maybe that was what he agreed to, I don't know. But what the steward did was he didn't end up messing with the landowner. What he did was call in all those renters and say to them, wow, how much do you owe? And then he just stripped himself of all the profit that he was taking from them, right? So the landowner came out looking really good. And the steward was really pretty smart because he knows that if he makes the landowner look good, the landowner can't turn around and diss him to the other people because they're going to say, hey, he treated us really nicely, you know what I mean? He cut his own profit just so that you'd get your money. So the landowner's kind of stuck. But the landowner ends up looking good. He gets his money, and the steward ends up befriending all of these people. And that's exactly what the gospel says about, that's exactly what the gospel writer is saying about the steward being creative. And way to be creative, he said. Way to be creative with what you have going and the situation that you have before you. It actually pointed out the fact that as that ends up, everyone's a winner, right? The landowner gets his stuff, the steward gets a better relationship, and the people get to pay their debt without the profit of the steward in that process. It really does simply point out for us that each and every one of us, I think it points out at least, that each and every one of us are stewards. We're really stewards. We don't, if you really get down to it, you really think about it, we don't own anything, right? We may think we do. We may think we own the land, but we really don't. It's just an agreement that this particular property with these particular lines, I have control of, because I gave you some money for it. The fact is, we don't really own it. But the very first time I heard that you're really a steward in this life, not an owner of anything, I thought, I don't like that. But it's true. We're just stewards. We're stewards of our own gifts. We're stewards of the land. We're actually stewards of each other. Do we take care of one another? That's what being a steward is about. Do we take care of what we do and where we celebrate? That's a steward. Do we care about the feelings, the thoughts, the ideas of another? That's stewardship. We're truly called to be stewards. So to that end, I don't know if there's enough. So if you have 4 $1 bills in your pocket, there is a 5 in here in case you have to make change. So 27, I'm not sure. I'm going to invite you to take $1 and pass it around. Just take one, though, because I didn't get to stop at the store very long. So I really tried to make this right. As you pass that around and you all take $1 out of it, I'm going to invite you to think about this. $1 in our world today means pretty much nothing, right? You can't hardly even buy a cup of coffee for $1. In fact, you can't. I don't know. Maybe at McDonald's you might be able to. But the fact is that as a steward, we actually just agree with each other that $1 is worth what it's worth. That's just an agreement. It's an agreement between, because if you print a 20 on it, it's worth 20. But that's just an agreement. And it's an agreement that's based on something like gold or silver or something, right? Something else that we all agree has value, right? So we simply agree that this particular thing has this or is worth this much money. It's a collective agreement. And I'm going to invite us, as you take that buck, I'm going to invite you to consider this week this gospel is there any left? Oh, we're getting there? Good. I'm going to invite you to take that $1 and be a steward with it, right? I'm going to invite you to take that $1 and do something with it that might transform the world, or at least your corner of the world, okay? You might give it to somebody as a tip. You might go through McDonald's if you eat at that place and give it to the person and say, put this $1 on the one behind me. You might talk to 5 other people and say, hey, let's take our $5 and go buy somebody a Caribou gift card or something. The fact is that I want you to just really concentrate on what it means to be a steward in this world. Just with that $1, just imagine what you could do and imagine how we could change the world if we would allow ourselves to think that $1 could make a difference. Maybe giving it as a tip might actually transform somebody's world. It might make somebody smile. Maybe what you could do is buy a stamp and write a letter to a politician about a particular issue that might actually change the world because you sent somebody a real letter. The point is that at a very tangible level, we're getting to what I believe is the message of the gospel, that you and I are simply stewards. Everything we have is a gift, from the land to each other, everything. Just imagine with me, if you would, if we all walked in this world in absolute truth. Imagine a world, especially today, a world in which we'd stop calling each other names. What if I didn't call you a Democrat or a Republican or left or right? Just imagine if we didn't do that. How different this world would be. Imagine if we really began to care about and for one another. Just imagine how different it could be. Imagine if different perspectives were an opportunity for dialogue and discussion rather than disassociation, right? I love to have good discussions, good, honest discussions, even when we disagree. It's okay to do that. Imagine if we would just get honest with each other and say things like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. How can I repair the harm? Just imagine if we could see a world that would be entirely different just because you and I decided we would make it that way. That, my friends, is all that we have to do, is make the decision to change the world. And we could do it. Our buck, if you would, or if you will, could change the world. The problem is, or the challenge, is have we decided that it's worth it?